Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Equipment Options for Every Budget tutorial. This tutorial is created specifically for the Podcasting A to Z online training course, and it is designed to help you understand that no matter what your budget is, whether it's $1.99 or you have $1,999 to spend on equipment for your podcast, no matter what your budget, there is an option for you. Now, before we get started, I want to actually show you my very humble beginnings. That's right, my friends. This right here is exactly how I got started in podcasting. It cost me a total of $35. You see, I already had an HP Livestrong laptop. Boy, those were my Windows days. I remember those. Anyway, and I went out to Best Buy and I picked up actually, I did not actually get a USB headset. If you look real close at that picture, I had one of those headsets with the boom microphone off to the side, and it had two little 1/8" plugs. One of those plugged into the headphones port on the computer laptop, and the other one went into a little microphone port. And that allowed me to hear what was coming through my laptop, and it also allowed me to record my audio from the mic into the computer using some free software. So this, my friends, is how I got started with no more than $35. Now, this next screen right here shows you just a little bit about how things improved over time. In the picture on the left here, you'll see a little tiny mixer. It's very similar to a Behringer 802 mixer I'll tell you about here very soon. Behind the laptop, you can see on some floor mic stands, I have two condenser microphones. I don't really enjoy condenser microphones very much, though. If you have them, we can certainly deal with that and help you get the best audio quality possible. But certainly, we're going to share with you in this tutorial my two preferred microphones. Really, I'm only going to suggest one of two different microphones, and I'll explain why a little bit later on. If you look over to the picture on the right, you'll see that there you'll have a much larger mixer. It's not quite the mixer I have today. That is a Behringer mixer. I think it was like a 16-something mixer, 16-channel mixer. And right next to that, off to the left, is this thing called a broadcast host, which was a telephone interface device. And there is a Heil PR40 microphone that's hanging over top of the computer monitor there. Anyway, I'll go into a little bit more details and the specifics of what each piece of equipment that I would recommend for you to choose today as an option. But I went from the humble beginnings to the picture on the left to the picture on the right, to where this picture right here is pretty close to what I have today. Now, the thing is you'll see that the image certainly shows the Heil PR40 microphone. You can see a Roland recorder if you look really close. You may not be able to pull it out without knowing exactly what to look for, but we're going to certainly talk about digital recorders here today. And then my Mackie 1402 VLZ3 mixer. I'm going to show you that here in just a bit. And then there are a couple of pieces of equipment that aren't shown in this picture that I will also tell you a little bit about in a bit. But here's the one thing that I get most often. Hey, Cliff, I want what you have. It's the number one request. I used to sell equipment, a lot of equipment. And today I got to the place where I only have one package. It's called the Podcast Answer Man Equipment Package. And this, my friends, is essentially the basics of everything that I have in one package. Now, the cost of this is $1,599. So it's not the least expensive option available, but it is how you can get a majority of the gear that I use. And I think what is the basics of the gear that I use, that if I wanted to get started today and I had a budget that would allow me to spend about $1,600, this is what I would get. All right, I would repurchase every single one of these items. Now, I am going to be showing you several other options, much less expensive options that you can choose from, but let me go ahead and walk you through a couple of the items that are included in the Podcast Answer Man Equipment Package. First of all, you have the Heil PR40 broadcast microphone. Now, I have an entire podcast episode devoted to this microphone. The URL is not on the screen, but it's at podcastanswerman.com/PR40. Again, that's podcastanswerman.com/PR40. I absolutely love the Heil broadcast quality microphone. This is a dynamic microphone, and it brings out a beautiful sound, I believe, out of my voice and out of the voice of literally thousands of other podcasters who use this microphone. And it's what I use, and it's what's included in the package. Now, I do want to show you that if you are going to purchase this microphone individually, it usually runs about $325. Now, just below the price there, you will see a URL. It's gspn.tv/PR40. Now, all of those little links that are gspn.tv/whatever, those are affiliate links that will take you to either B&H Photo, and I think I'll have one link later that might take you to Amazon. And of course, one link later in the tutorial is going to be a link to iTunes. It's not an affiliate link. But anyway, this one here, if you were to go to gspn.tv/PR40, it would take you to my B&H affiliate link where you could purchase that microphone, and it's probably going to be right around $325. But it is included in the Podcast Answer Man equipment package. All right, next up is the Roland R-05 digital audio recorder. Now, this device by itself usually runs about $180. You can get it directly at gspn.tv/R05. That's, of course, if they're in stock. Sometimes these things are a little bit hard to get because they do sell out pretty quickly. I do want to let you know that when you buy a Roland R-05 recorder, it does not come with a power adapter. It runs on AA batteries. But if you want a power adapter, which I do recommend, it is going to run you about $40, and you can find that at gspn.tv/R05 power if you want to go to my affiliate link. Again, you don't have to use my affiliate links. Please don't feel obligated to do so whatsoever. I'm just letting you know those that are there if you choose to do so because, well, you just want to. But again, no obligation and no expectation that you would use any of my affiliate links to buy any of your equipment. And no expectation that you'll purchase my Podcast Answer Man package either. So I'm not creating this tutorial to sell you on the package, just to let you know what it is and what's included. And of course, the Roland R-05 and the power adapter both are included in the Podcast Answer Man package. All right, let's talk about the benefits of a digital audio recorder. Perhaps you might consider, spending $180, and that's all you have to spend. And if that's all you had to spend, I think just getting the Roland R-05 digital audio recorder could be a great option. Now, before we talk about using it as a standalone, let me talk about the benefits of a digital audio recorder here. First and foremost, no loss of recording due to software crash. That's right, my friends. Mac computers, Apple computers, they're no better than Windows computers in the fact that occasionally software will crash, or sometimes an entire computer system will crash, or a hard drive might fail right in the middle of a recording. I know, it's kind of like saying, I don't know if that's going to really happen to me. Well, in my experience, I record enough podcast episodes that it happened enough where I lost recordings due to software crashes that I chose to no longer record into computers. I don't want to scare you, and certainly for many of you, you'll be starting out with recording into a computer, and that's exactly how I started in my early days of podcasting as well. But one of the benefits of a digital audio recorder is that the software that's included inside of the recorder itself is only meant to do really one thing, and that is to record audio. It's not designed to do a bunch of other things, no multitasking necessary. It simply records, and I've never had it crash. Another benefit of a digital audio recorder is that there is no buzz or hum sound introduced by internal computer components. Sometimes you might record into your computer and in the background you hear sounds. That's sometimes the internal workings of your computer giving off a little bit of an interference, and it's being picked up by your sound card internally within your computer. Now, again, having a digital audio recorder, if you're going straight from a microphone into the recorder or straight from a microphone into a mixer and into a recorder, and there's nothing else hooked up to that mixer, then certainly there will be no buzz or hum sounds introduced by any of those computer components. Another benefit of the digital audio recorder is the fact that it works great for field interviews. I take this thing with me everywhere I go, whether I'm in a conference hall or if I invite somebody to go to a local coffee shop. I can just hold this recorder in my hand right between myself and the person that I'm interviewing, or I can set it on the table in between us, hit record, and instantly have an amazing sounding interview out in the field. In fact, I really like using the built-in microphones that are on board just to give me a little bit of that ambient sound. It makes people feel just as though they're there with me. Also, there is the ability to actually see what the audio levels are going into your recorder as you are recording. You know, this is one of the biggest problems for many brand new podcasters is getting their audio levels right. Later in the Podcasting A to Z course, I do have a digital audio recorder tutorial that will walk you through how to use this display on the front of the recorder to get perfect audio levels 100% of the time, guaranteed. So just let me give you an overview real quickly of why I love the Roland recorder so much. First and foremost, it records to WAV format, uncompressed. This means the highest quality possible. Now, I will tell you that this recorder will record to MP3, and I advise against it. It's not important for you to understand the difference between, let's say, the LAME encoder, LAME, or the Fraunhofer encoder at this time. We'll get into another tutorial when the time is right. However, it is very important to understand that I prefer recording originally into a WAV uncompressed format, and that will make more sense in future tutorials. It also has the ability to pause my recording. So, for example, instead of if I was to record something and then all of a sudden I'm at the coffee shop and the waitress comes up and is about ready to interrupt us, instead of hitting stop and then hitting record again, creating a second file, I can hit pause as soon as she walks away, unpause it, and continue on. Honestly, in that scenario, I'd probably just leave the recorder going, and then in post-production, I would just edit out the part where the waitress came by. However, a better situation where this might come into play is when I'm in my studio and I'm recording from my microphone into a mixer and then into the recorder. And I just at the very last minute decided I wanted to look up a resource and tell people the price on something specific. And if I want to, I can say, let me go check on that real quick. And then I hit the pause button. And then I can take 15 minutes if I need to, or usually it's just a few minutes. And then as soon as I find the price, I hit the pause button again, which will unpause it. And I can say, okay, I'm back. So what I did is I looked it up and the price is blah, 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 blah. And so people don't have to wait and listen to you research something while you're looking something up. And it's possible to actually use the pause button to avoid the need to do post-production to edit out bits and pieces when you could have just saved the work by using the pause feature. And I love that. There is also the very large display for viewing audio levels. We already talked about that. It uses SD cards for recording, and that's my preferred format for recording audio files. Many computers today have SD card slots. If not, getting a SD card slot reader is not too hard to find. And if you don't want to do that, the Roland recorder does come with a USB cable to transfer the files off of the recorder over to your computer as well. One important note about the SD card, if you have a Mac, it is important that when you drag and drop files off of the recorder over to your computer, on a Mac, that doesn't necessarily delete them off the SD card. Even though it looks like they're not there, they really are. So if you've just dragged a couple files off of your Roland recorder, off of the SD card, then on the Mac, you would want to go ahead and empty your trash can while the SD card is still included in the recorder. If not, go ahead and put the SD card back into the Roland recorder and use the format option to format the SD card once the card's back in there. Of course, that's assuming that you don't want to keep any of the other recordings that may still be on that SD card. If that's the case, then you don't want to do those things. Anyway, there'll be more on that in the tutorial for the digital audio recorders. I already said that this uses AA batteries, which makes it easy for me to go out to a conference and I don't have to worry about, did I charge this thing and bring the charger and all of that stuff. Yes, I do use a power adapter when I'm in the studio to keep it powered up all the time. But when I'm out and about and I find out that, oh my gosh, I'm going to stay a couple extra days and do some more recordings, my recorder is, I left my charging cable at home. I don't have to worry about that. I just go to the store, pick up a couple of AA batteries, and I'm good to go. Also, the menu system in the digital audio recorder for the Roland RO5 is amazing. It's very easy to figure out, and I go through that with the digital audio recorder tutorial for the Roland recorder. It also has a line in port. This will be what allows me to bring audio directly from a mixer into my Roland recorder. And whenever I plug into the line in port, it cancels out the microphones that are built in. In fact, the next thing I will tell you is that it does have a mic in port, which allows for us to plug in an external mic, which will be a setup option that I'm going to tell you about a little bit later. And the built-in microphones, these are condenser microphones, and in a studio, I'm not really a fan of using condenser microphones because they do give off a lot of echoey sounds, pick up fan noises from your computer and all that stuff. But I do love the onboard condenser microphones of the Roland RO5 if I'm out in the field and I can bring in an ambient sound that really adds a little bit of a flavor to the recording. Once again, I know I say this over and over, that's covered in the digital audio recorder tutorial for the Roland recorder. And then there's also the fact that it has low handling noise for walk casting and interviews. So if I'm holding the recorder, it doesn't make a lot of noise while I'm holding onto it. It's pretty well insulated. And then all of these above benefits and the fact that it fits in my pocket is pretty darn sweet. So that, my friends, is why I love the Roland so much. The next item that is included in the Podcast Answer Man package is the Mackie 1402 VLZ3 audio mixer. Yes, it looks like it's got lots of knobs and sliders and buttons and all these other things, and you might think, oh my gosh, there's no way I could ever figure this thing out. Well, the truth is this thing is not as complicated as you might imagine. In fact, I'll have a tutorial on mixers and how to record and set up your equipment and all that stuff later in the Podcasting A to Z course. And I will tell you that really all this mixer is doing is taking several different sources of audio, bringing them together in one piece of equipment and allowing us to mix it to one signal that will go out to either a computer or in my case, will go out to a digital audio recorder like the Roland RO5. Now this Mackie 1402 VLZ3 mixer usually runs about $400, and my affiliate link for that is gspn.tv/1402. Now let me tell you a little bit about the options of this mixer. First, you see in the blue circle, there are 6 XLR inputs for microphones and other professional audio sources. This means I could literally plug in 6 different microphones. I could have a panel with 4 people that are sitting at a table. I could have another microphone for let's say a lectern or somebody who is actually going to moderate a panel. And I could even have a 6th microphone that's plugged in that is a wireless microphone, maybe for out in the studio audience or something like that. If I was to take this mixer out of my studio and go do a live show or something like that. Or if I wanted to bring 4 or 5 people into the studio and I had a telephone interface device or whatever the case may be, I have lots of room for growth, and that's why I went with a 1402 VLZ3 mixer, is the ability to make sure that, I wanted it to be as upgrade-proof as possible. If you look at the green circle that is shown on the mixer there to the right, you'll notice that this has 2 auxiliary outputs that allow for a mix minus to bring in up to 2 audio interfaces at the same time. Now, if you don't understand what a mix minus is, that's not important at this very moment. Don't worry about it, but it is something that if you're going to be doing Skype interviews or Skype co-hosted calls, or you might be bringing in a telephone interface down the road, then having at least one auxiliary input is essential. And the benefit of this mixer here is that it allows you to have both a Skype interface and a telephone interface both connected at the same time. So it's kind of a nice little benefit of having the Mackie 1402 VLZ3 mixer. All right, and then of course on the back of this mixer, there are 6 channel insert ports. Now what these do is they allow you to send audio from, let's say, your microphone, and it pulls it out of the mixer and runs it through processing equipment. These are additional pieces of equipment that can kind of condition or change the way the sound is processed from your microphone before it goes into the recorder. So it can do some live stuff. And I'll show you a couple pieces of audio processing, or at least one piece of audio processing equipment in a few minutes. But having channel inserts is extremely important to be able to take advantage of sound processing equipment for the microphones that you'll plug into your mixer. So basically, if you want to use, let's just say, something called a compressor limiter gate, which you'll learn about in just a moment, then if you're going to want to use that piece of equipment on your microphones, you will want to have a mixer that has channel insert ports. This mixer happens to have one for every XLR port on the mixing board, which is very, very nice. Again, this mixer by itself runs about $400. It is built super, super solid. It's about twice the price of a Behringer mixer, which really the Behringer mixers are a complete 100% knockoff of the Mackie brand. And they're just not built as well. I had a Behringer mixer previous to owning a Mackie, and it went bad on me, and I replaced it with the Mackie. I've had the Mackie for years, and this is a super solid and somewhat heavy mixer. It's a really heavy duty. I really love this mixer. And yes, it is included in the Podcast Answer Man equipment package. All right, also included in the package are the Sony MDR 7506 headphones. These usually run about $90. The affiliate link, if you wanted to purchase them individually, are GSPN. Is at gspn.tv/headphones. Now, one of the reasons why I like to listen to myself plugged in, or have the headphones plugged in to the mixer so I can hear myself talk, are for a few reasons. Number one, I like to hear and make sure that my audio is coming through loud and clear. I like to be able to see if there's any kind of other noises that maybe come into the recording, like echo sounds and stuff like that. I also play live audio clips into my show, and it gives me a perfect understanding of exactly what the mix between the volume of the audio clip that I'm playing and my voice. So it gives me a real-time feedback of exactly how my show is going to sound when I'm finished recording. So I use Sony headphones to monitor my audio. Now, I will talk about having several different sets of headphones for other people, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But the Podcast Answer Man equipment package does include one pair of the Sony MDR 7506 headphones. Of course, the Podcast Answer Man package also comes with this nifty diagram, which of course you could just screen capture here or potentially grab the PDF document that'll have all the slides. But anyway, it shows you exactly what cables come with the package. I also give you a diagram of where those cables plug into the mixer and to other items. It's all completely 100% laid out for you, including where all the knobs should be pointed, what buttons should be up is indicated in green, and what buttons should be pressed down are indicated with red arrows. So everything on this diagram is all set up for you as far as the mixer is concerned and how to hook up all the cables. And yes, the cables are included as well. So again, the Podcast Answer Man equipment package for $15.99 comes with the Roland recorder, the Roland power adapter, the broadcast quality microphone from Heil, the shock mount. It actually comes with a shock mount so that if you are moving or bumping the table that it's connected to or whatever, all of that sound doesn't vibrate into the microphone and get recorded. It also comes with a pop filter, so you're not popping your peas. That's very important. It also comes with a Heil boom mic arm, which, by the way, comes with a C clamp. This allows you to bring the microphone to you instead of you bringing yourself to the microphone. A lot of people will use tabletop mic stands, which are fine, but you're going to have to lean forward into the microphone to get a really good, nice sound out of it. The boom microphone arm from Heil will allow you to bring the microphone to you to get that wonderful sound. Then, of course, there is the Mackie mixer that we've talked about, the Sony headphones, and it also includes all of the cables necessary to bring the audio from the mixer into the recorder. And if you're going to use the mixer to do Skype calls and you want to do mix minus the way that I do Skype calls, then it comes with the cables to do that as well. And shipping is included. Again, that's $15.99. I only ship inside the United States, though. So unfortunately, if you're outside of the United States, you'll have to see if you can piece out each of those items and find them in a local electronics or music or I guess musician equipment store or whatever. Alrighty, so that's the Podcast Answer Man package, and when people ask me, hey, I want what you want, then that's what I tell them. Now, I will say that there are a few other items in my studio setup that I do not include in the Podcast Answer Man package. The reason why I do not include these is because they're not required. They're not necessary. They're just extras. They're just bonuses. They're just over the top. You don't necessarily have to have them. The first one is this. This is a Behringer HA47 4700 headphone amp, and it usually runs about $120. And the affiliate link there is gspn.tv/HA4700. This is a 4-port or 4-channel headphone amplifier. This allows me to go from the headphones jack of the mixer and then take that into this headphone amplifier. And then I can plug in 4 different pairs of headphones. And here's the real benefit. It allows me to independently control the volume, the balance between left and right, and the bass and the treble and all of that stuff. So every single set of headphones can have its own comfort level when it comes to volume. And that's really the reason why I bought it, because my wife says that when I listen to stuff, I listen to it too loud. And when I get it to where she likes it, I can just, I don't like it because I don't hear it as much as I would like to hear it. So yes, this is why we use a headphone amplifier in our studio. Now, if you do get this, you'll want to make sure that you get a 1/4 inch TRS or stereo patch cable. This is just a 1/4 inch stereo cable with 2 male ends, one on each side, that will go from the headphones jack of the mixer into the input of this device. All right. Now, of course, if you didn't want to go and get a 4-channel headphone amplifier for almost $120, you could spend just a couple bucks and go and grab a headphone jack splitter. Now, the one I show here is the GPP359. Affiliate links on the screen there. And this is a device that I just plug right into the headphone jack on the mixer, and it gives me 2 ports instead of 1. And I've seen these as little as $2, and I've seen them as high as $10 or $15. It just depends on where you go to get them. But a simple headphone jack splitter could certainly help you if you wanted to just send multiple audio or plug in multiple sets of headphones. However, the benefit of the headphone amplifier that I showed on the previous screen is so that each person could independently control their volume. Whereas with the headphone jack splitter, you are going to be controlling the volume of the headphones on the mixer, and it's going to control both sets of headphones that are plugged in. One other thing about the headphones, I'll mention this right now, and that is why would you want the other people in the studio, especially your guest who you've brought in for an interview, to wear headphones? The reason why you would want them to wear headphones is so that they could hear themselves if they come off the microphone. So, for example, I'm speaking right into a microphone right now, But if all of a sudden I turn my head to the right just a little bit, you can see that there is a big difference between what you hear right here and what you hear right here. And I noticed that difference just as much as you did because I'm listening in headphones. And so when your guest actually pulls their head away, they can hear their own voice going away as well. And it helps them stay on the microphone. Of course, giving them a little instruction and maybe a little hand gesture as well, saying, hey, get back on that microphone would be helpful also. Another piece of equipment that I have in my studio is called the JK Audio Broadcast Host. And I'm going to click right here and do this. All right, so there you go. As you can see, this device allows me to bring in telephone calls into my mixer. Now, this device usually runs about $495. You can find it sometimes cheaper, sometimes a little bit more expensive, but usually on the right around the $495 rate is what you're going to pay. Affiliate link, gspn.tv/JKAudioBH. JKAudioBH for broadcast host. Now, this device is not for everyone. In fact, it requires that you have a landline analog telephone system or a connection at your house. Many people have moved over to voice over IP. Some of them give you an analog adapter, and that would work. But if you happen to have, if you have one of those telephone systems that actually plugs into an Ethernet port, this is not the device for you. In fact, I don't necessarily recommend this device for anyone at this point. Instead, if I had to do it all over again today, I would not have this device, and if I needed to make a telephone call, I would use Skype to do it. I'm going to have a tutorial called A Guide to Co-hosts, or A Guide to Recording Co-hosts, Guests, and Telephone Interviews, and I'll go into that in greater detail at that time. I certainly do not recommend that you make a purchase of the broadcast host until you're absolutely certain that this is what you want, and you have gone through the tutorial on called The Guide to Recording Co-hosts, Guests, and Telephone Interviews, and that'll be in a future tutorial assignment for another week. All right, let's see here. Oh, and by the way, don't forget that if you get this, you're going to need additional cables to plug up everything. And if you get this, I certainly suggest that you get what we call a gate. An MDX 4600. In fact, let me go ahead and bring that up here for you now. The Behringer MDX 4600. Now, this is a compressor limiter gate. I'm not going to go into details about what a compressor is, other than to just say it can help beef up the sound of your voice. It makes it a little bit more punchier, like a radio personality. But really, and as far as the limiter is concerned, the limiter is not that great on here. It doesn't always do what I expect it to do. So I'm not even going to go into that, but the real beauty of this device is what's called the gate. Now, a gate will allow you to cut anything below a certain volume level completely out of your recording whenever you're not talking. Now, I do have another tutorial in response to this. A lot of people ask the question, do I need an MDX 4600? And so to answer that question, I'm going to insert that little video right here. Hey everybody, Cliff Ravenscraft here from podcastanswerman.com and Podcasting A to Z. And one of the questions that I'm asked very often is, do I need a compressor limiter gate like the one that you have? Specifically, I'm currently using, as I'm recording this video, the MDX 4600 by Behringer. Now, this is a device I can't even remember now if it was given to me as a gift, which I believe it was, or if I purchased it for myself and I just let it set. I know that I let it set for a very long time because I had no idea what this device did and what it could do for me. Now, I do want to explain to you why I chose to figure out what this is. One of the problems that I had early on, way back in the day, was I was using my JK Audio broadcast host to do telephone calls. And one of the things that I noticed was this noise. Let me unplug something and I'll let you hear it. Okay, so now what you're hearing is static in the background. The reason why you're hearing static in the background is because I have something called a JK Audio Broadcast Host. This is a telephone interface device that runs right around the $459 to $500 range, and it allows me to bring a telephone call into my mixer board so that I can have a conversation with my microphone, me speaking into my microphone, and the person on this phone actually coming into the mixer as well, and then everything going out to my digital audio recorder. The problem is that when I was connected like this to somebody on the telephone, which, by the way, right now my telephone interface device is connected via a phone call to my cell phone. In fact, let me just unmute my cell phone and I'll mute my studio mic.
Hello, everybody. This is me on the phone.
Okay. So now I'm going to mute the cell phone again. Now, obviously, you heard my voice loud and clear on the telephone, and you hear my voice loud and clear here. But when the person on the telephone isn't speaking and I am, there's static. Now, by the way, if you're not hearing static right now, there's a good chance you're probably either traveling down the road, and the road noise is covering that up, or you might even be listening to me in with maybe speakers on your computer, and it's not that big of a deal. But those of you with earbuds in or earbuds on or headphones on, you're hearing the static behind my voice. Now let me show you what happens when I use a compressor limiter gate, or specifically just a gate. I'm going to plug this device in. There you go. Now that audio or that static has completely gone away, but I am still connected to the telephone with my JK Audio Broadcast Host. Now, I'm going to demonstrate that to you by muting my microphone in the studio and talking to you here on the cell phone.
Hey, everybody. It's me on the telephone. So as you can tell, I am able to continue to speak to you. And if you listen really closely, you'll notice that when I am not talking, the static is completely gone. However, if you listen really close now, what you're going to notice is that you're actually going to hear the static that is on the telephone line while I'm speaking. Now, you probably wouldn't have noticed that unless I actually told you about it. And anybody who is a podcast producer and it's your own show, you're going to notice it's there for sure because you're going to become an audio snob, probably just like me. But anyway, most of your audience is not going to even notice that there is static behind my voice right now. However, it is there. Now, when I stop talking, the static is completely cut off. But when I do talk, the static is there with my voice. Now, I will tell you that this is a very good, strong signal or a strong audio call. And what that means is that my signal, my voice, to the noise ratio, the noise being the static, it's a good ratio. Basically, my signal is much higher than the static. Now, you may have some people who talk really soft, and you may have to amplify them or turn up the gain on their call that's coming in, and therefore you're going to amplify the volume of that static as well. You also may have somebody who has a very weak signal, and it could actually cause them to actually have even increased static, and static that is closer to the volume level of their voice. And so you're going to have results that vary, and there's absolutely nothing you can do to work with that. The one thing you can do, however, is anything below the volume level of their voice, you do have the ability to say, hey, don't let that static come through. So now I'm going to go ahead and mute my cell phone again and move back to the studio microphone.
Okay, now I am back on the studio microphone. The person is still on the phone. The phone is still connected. I'm talking, and as I'm talking, as the host, as the interviewer, that audio, that ambient staticky noise background is not there. But the guest can do this anytime. Hello?
Hello, hello.
They can actually break through and interrupt you and allow that conversation to be more natural. And the static, again, only comes through when the person's voice opens up the gate. So let me explain to you what the gate does. Now look at the screen here. You see my Podcasting A to Z logo, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a picture here, and let's just measure audio on the left-hand side here on a scale of 1 I'm sorry, a scale of 1 to 10. We'll make this a 1, and we'll make this a 10. All right, so we have a scale of 1 to 10, and let's just say my voice is right up here. The volume level, again, this is volume. The volume level of my voice is an 8. Now, the volume level of that static down here is a 4, all right? So we've got the volume level of the static is a 4. The volume level of my voice is an 8. And what the gate allows me to do, the gate functionality says I can actually create a gate, that basically, if you could just imagine right here, this gate, and there we go. There's my gate. This gate is set at we'll just say it's at a 6. All right, I set my gate at a 6. So anything that comes in below the volume level of 6 is completely shut out. And so what happens is we're actually going to send audio, let's just say from the telephone, and you can tell how old I am by the way I choose to actually draw what a telephone looks like. With some kind of smiley face. I love it. Anyway, so I'm sending the telephone into the gate, and what happens is if anything coming from this telephone line is below a 6, I'm sorry, it says no way, you cannot come through. Boom, boom, boom. You have to stay down here. However, if my 8 comes through this line, all right, now let's just imagine hold on right here. Let's just imagine my mixer is up here and my recorder is over here. And what happens is this 8 travels through the system. This is my voice. Well, my voice comes in and it blows a hole right into the gate. It opens up the gate, and my 8 right here allows it to go right into the mixer, and then it allows the mixer to send that audio to the recorder. So again, what the gate is doing is it's closing out any of the audio that's below the 6. So the first question is, do I need a gate? And the answer is no, you don't have to have a gate. The only time I believe a gate is absolutely mission critical is when you are bringing a telephone call in via a JK Audio broadcast host or a Telos One or a HX1 Telos device or any other digital hybrid or telephone interface device that is going to bring in static guaranteed every single time. All right. Again, want to remind you that once a gate is open, like you can imagine if there are dogs inside of somebody's house, and just imagine the door to their house is the gate, and they've got all of these dogs and they're all wanting to get out, but the door keeps them in. You go knock on the door and all the dogs in the house go crazy. And then all of a sudden, the person who owns the home, when you knock on the door, they open the door, and what happens? That person can see you, communicate with you, but they've also allowed the option for those dogs to run out. Has that ever happened to you before? I don't know about you, but it has for me. So anyway, that is the idea of the gate. I just want to let you know that a gate is not going to get rid of the static while the person is talking, but it can potentially get rid of that all of that static while the person is not talking. Now, when I say potentially, I do want to say right here, we've got our scale of 1 to 10. All right, we got our 10 up here. And we have our audio level set at, let's just say, 6. Now, what happens if the volume level of the person on the telephone is a 5 and the static is actually over here at a 4.5? Well, guess what? I'm sorry that if the person's volume level from the telephone is only at a 5, it's not going to make it to the recorder. That gate is going to not allow that to pass. So what we would need to do is we would actually have to lower the gate. In this scenario, we would actually bring this gate right below, let's just say 475. The problem is, though, is that it's hard to dial it in that directly. So there's a good chance that you may have an occasion where you actually have somebody's voice and the static that are coming in pretty much equally. And it's going to be hard for you to separate those two. That happens very rarely. But it has happened out of 100 or so different interviews that I've done over the telephone. That has occasionally happened, maybe once, maybe twice. But usually the person's voice on the telephone is going to be louder than the static that is also on that telephone line, and therefore the gate is going to be nice. So what does the gate do? It basically allows you to block out any audio that is below a certain volume level. How does it work? We're sending audio from the audio input device. For example, in this scenario, we were bringing it from the JK Audio broadcast host or the telephone interface device. We plug that into the back of the gate, and then we take a cable from the back of the gate and send it into the mixer. So how it works is we send the audio into the gate. The gate then only allows audio to go out the cable going to the mixer if it's above the volume level for which we set. All right. Now, again, I do believe it is a must-have only for those who have a telephone interface device. Now, I will say this. This could be helpful on many Skype calls as well. I don't know if you've ever actually had a Skype call where somebody, while you're talking, they're doing a little bit of, typing on the keyboard or something like that, or maybe they have a fan on in the background and that just comes through as static as well. But their voice, when they speak, is much louder than all that ambient noise in the room. Well, in that scenario, a gate could help limit how much of that audio comes through. Now, I will tell you, if they're using an internal microphone and they're pounding on that keyboard, guess what? You'd be surprised, but if they're coming in their voice is coming in as a volume level 8, there's a good chance that keyboard pounding is probably coming in as a level 7 or an 8 as well. So just understand that the gate functionality is not a miracle worker. It's not going to cut out everything, but it will certainly cut out the person on Skype maybe ruffling some papers that are really soft in the background, or a computer fan in the background, or something like that. It could give you a nice, quiet, clean recording whenever that person is not talking and you are. So for Skype calls, is it required? No. Could it be beneficial? The answer is yes. There is one other place where a gate could be beneficial, and that is where you are talking on your microphone. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hang up the telephone device here and hang up my cell phone because I think we're done with that. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring up a video of me so you can actually see me here. Hello, everybody. Now, before I go any further, I want to tell you that everything you've been hearing so far. Now, by the way, this probably will make no big difference at all for those of you who are listening to me while you're riding in the car, or if you are listening with just computer speakers and you're not listening with headphones or earbuds. But one of the things I can tell you is that when I go like this and I talk for a little bit and then I go like that, you hear my breathing noise. All right, you're hearing that breathing noise. And if I was to go like this, like that, you hear that as well. And also you just hear every little thing. And not to mention the fact that if I was to do this, you're also hearing that. Okay? And if I was to, just move around in my chair or whatever, you're going to hear a lot of noises. But I'm going to show you something. Right now, I'm not taking advantage of the compressor limiter gate. Instead, I am just going straight from my microphone into the mixer. Let me reach over to my mixer board here, and I'm going to plug in my gate. All right, now my gate is plugged in, and I just breathed in, and you did not hear it. So I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to keep talking, and I just breathed in. You did not hear it. So now I do want to tell you this. Now, knowing what I know about my gate and stuff like that, I do want to tell you that I do breathe in a different way when I'm recording like that as compared to how I normally breathe before that. I mean, I actually trained myself to breathe the way that I do now. I mean, that was a good, solid, long breath. But here's the thing. My voice that you're getting right now, my voice is coming in at a level, let's just say an 8. And my breathing, let's just say I've got the gate set at 6, but my breathing, I'm trying to make sure my volume level of my breathing is at below a 6. Like that. Now, I can tell you that if you're a heavy breather and your breathing is just as loud as your voice, like this, you're still going to hear it. And if I go and exhale like that really loud and breathe in really loud, then you're going to hear all of that. The gate is not going to cut that out. But I'm going to tell you, you could potentially, if you want to, train yourself to breathe differently to work with your gate so that you can exhale and inhale like that, and you're not going to get all of that breathing noise. It's not going to get rid of everything, but it does help. Not to mention the fact, remember before I did this? Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think you may have heard just a little bit of that. Yeah, you're getting a little bit. I could actually adjust the threshold or the limit or the gate place where that is and probably turn it up a little higher. Now, one of the things I do want to tell you, I'm going to pull my hands over here, which is further away, and you certainly don't hear it now. But I'm just like I told you when the person on the phone was talking and the static came through, I want to show you this. If I actually do this, if you listen closely, you do hear my hands in the background as I'm talking. But when I stop talking, as I stop talking, that audio that's in the background stops. So again, you see me actually rubbing my hands. I'm not actually doing it any softer, but when I stop talking, it goes away. But when I'm talking, it's there. This is helpful for fans that might be in the room, computer fans. This could be, I've got a heater vent above me. It's got all of those different things. But this is what a gate can do for you. Now, is it required? No. Could I unplug my gate? Right like this, and I'm going to just set the gate wire out of here. All right, so now the gate is unplugged, and I can actually have a good conversation with you. I can still train the way that I breathe to this, so it's not as loud. But there, if you're hearing with headphones, you did just hear that. I'm going to exhale. You heard that. I'm going to inhale again. Like that, and I can actually do that. Now, here's how some people do it. They go like that, and then they go and stuff like that. So what I want to do is I actually still want to train myself to breathe differently so that I can talk like this, and you're not actually hearing the big out-of-breath stuff. And this takes some practice. This doesn't happen overnight, but I can create a good, decent audio sound with my microphone without the use of a gate. So there you go. I mean, this is actually really great audio. Is a gate required? Absolutely not. Is it required when you have a telephone interface device? Absolutely. In my opinion, it is. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple other things. First, let me plug my gate back in. All right. Now that my gate's plugged in, I am going to get rid of that, and I'm going to pull up a browser that should have some images here. There are a couple things that I need to tell you that if you're going to use a compressor limiter gate, or really all I care about is the gate functionality, I personally use the Behringer MDX 4600. Now, I admit to you that I only use this because it was the cheapest model out there at the time. I believe this was even given to me as a gift. And not only that, but it does have 4 channels, which is pretty nice. I can actually run 2 studio microphones through it. I can run my JK Audio broadcast host through it, and I can also run Skype through it. Now, when I want to bring Skype into the mix here, basically here is a scenario where let's just say that Skype is on this computer, and this is the speaker jack for Skype, and I just bring that in to one of the channels on the mixer, and then I just bring the audio from that channel on the mix, or I'm sorry, this is not the mixer, this is the gate. So I bring the audio from Skype into the gate, and then from the gate to the mixer. And of course, the gate is going to do everything that I just showed you before. So instead of bringing the Skype audio directly from the computer into the mixer, we would actually send the audio from Skype into the gate and then into your mixer. And if that's all you wanted to do, If that is all that you wanted to do, then it doesn't matter what mixer. You could have any mixer in the world. Now let's just draw up here the telephone. Again, this is the telephone interface device. There. Let's put a little cord there. All right. So if I wanted to bring the telephone in, the same thing is true. There's a telephone interface device. It allows me to take a cable from that device and bring it into the compressor limiter to gate. And then I could take that audio and bring it into the mixer. And I could even, we'll just leave it at that. We could actually bring the audio in from that interface device into the gate and into the mixer. And again, at this point, it doesn't matter what kind of mixer you have as long as you have some audio inputs on your mixer. Now, if you want to have the benefit of doing what I was doing before, which is having the gate affect your microphone, then it is required that you have what are called insert ports. Now, the back of my Mackie 1402 VLZ3 mixer has these on the back, and they actually say insert channel or insert port. And on some other mixers, and just because you have these little doohickeys here, the 1/4 inch inputs, those are usually 1/4 inch microphone or line inputs. Those are not always insert. It actually has to say the word insert for this to work. But what is going on here? Why your mixer needs an insert, why you have to have a mixer with an insert? Because what you're going to do is you're going to run your microphone cable right into your mixer, all right, and then. And actually, I'll tell why in just a moment. But anyway, and then you're actually going to take the insert port 1 for channel 1, which is this channel right here, and it's actually going to pull the audio out of the mixer, and it's going to run it into one of the channels in the gate. And then the gate is actually going to have that threshold of 6 or whatever, and it's only going to let anything above a 6 come through and come back to the mixer on the same cable right into this insert channel. So that is when I was just unplugging and plugging things back in, that's what I was unplugging just in the back of my mixer. So you will need a mixer that has insert channels. By the way, some mixers they're on in the back. Some mixers they'll have a second row here where they're on top or whatever the case may be. So having an insert port is absolutely required for a microphone. Now, why is that? Why can't I just go right here from the microphone into the gate and then into the mixer? And the reason why is because that microphone needs to be amplified. Inside of your mixer, hidden inside is this thing called a preamp. All right, a preamp, and that's amplifying the signal from your microphone. So inside of the gate functionality, these typically do not have a preamp. So if you go straight into here, you're not going to get enough audio from the microphone. You may get something, but you're not going to get enough, and it's going to sound horrible. All right. Now, if you have an old mixer, you could upgrade to a mixer that has insert ports, or you could buy another piece of equipment called a preamp if you want. And then you could go from your microphone into the preamp, from the preamp into the gate, and then from the gate into the mixer. That is completely an option as well, but it's sometimes just cheaper just to go ahead and get yourself an upgraded mixer that has an insert port. So hopefully that helps you understand what's involved there. Again, it depends on how much you're going to use your gate, what cables you're going to need. So this right here, cable number 3, this is actually called an insert cable. They run anywhere between $6 to $15 depending on where you get them. This cable right here for Skype is typically a 1/8 inch, 1/8 inch plug to 1/4 inch plug. And by the way, the 1/8 inch is usually stereo. And the 1/4 plug here would be mono. And then going from the MDX 4600 or the gate, you would actually have a mono 1/4 inch to mono 1/4 inch that would plug into the top portion of one of your audio inputs on one of your lines on your mixer. So that is the cable functionality there. If you have a broadcast host, I actually have another video, the MDX 4600 tutorial, that actually talks about the cables necessary there to do that. But yeah, so those are some of the things that you need. You would need some different cabling specific to your setup to actually get this to work. And again, you'll need insert cables if you want to hook it up to your microphone channels. Now, one other thing to consider is this piece of equipment is meant to go inside what they call an equipment rack. Now, I have seen plenty of people who will take this piece of equipment, which is about, really it's about half this size right here, and it would look like this, and then they have the little things off to the side there, and you can see the little screw holes here, and here, and that actually would take up this amount of space. So if you could just imagine, putting this device and just setting it on your table. I know many people who do that. It's no problem at all. But you could actually get what they call a rack box or a rack mount or something like that. This right here is called a middle Atlantic. And I think this is an Atlantic. There we go. And this box right here is called RK2. I think you could pick one of these up at gspn.tv. That's G there. .tv/RK2. And I'm going to type that in just to make sure that actually works. So if I go here to gspn.tv/RK2, and it will pull that up. And how much is that? It is usually ships within 7 to 10 business days, and there it is, $99 for the two space. Now, if you happen to have another piece of equipment inside of here, like this one has a headphone amplifier in it, then the 2 space is great. If you only have one device to put in there, you'll probably also want to consider getting one flanged blank plate so that you don't have an empty hole inside of that unit. And also you'll need some rack screws. So don't forget to get your rack screws. So basically you would get this 2-space rack box. You would actually get a blank panel. You'd get the screws, and then you can actually put all of that together. And it, it's a little project to put it together, but as you can see here, this looks very nice. It's a very clean setup. Your mixer sits right on top of the box, and that is an option for you. So let me just go through this again, and I'm just going to show you my blank screen there. Do I need a gate? The answer is more than likely not. You do not need a gate. Is it required? No. What does the gate do? It allows you to block any audio that is below a certain volume level. How does it work? You send the audio into the gate, and the gate only allows only audio above a certain level that you set to actually pass through to the mixer. I believe it is a must-have for those who are using a telephone interface device like the JK Audio Broadcast Host or another such system. It does cut out the static on the phone line when the person on the phone is not speaking. Note that when the gate is open or the person is speaking, the static does still come through, and there could still be an issue where the person's volume level of their voice is close to the volume level of the telephone call, which could present an issue for you. Could this be helpful for blocking out soft background noises or ambient noises on Skype calls as well? Yes, it could. I certainly have my Skype running through it just because I have it. I believe that it is great for studio mics. It does allow me to take in those deeper breaths quietly, but still take in a deeper breath without it coming through like I just did. And you don't know this, but I just exhaled as well, and I'm going to take in another deep breath. And you didn't hear any of that. So it's kind of nice to have it for that. And it also blocks out a little bit of ambient noise. Like, for example, since I started recording this, my heater has turned on because it's wintertime here when I'm recording this. And you don't hear that in the background. And the reason why is because the gate is keeping that out. If you're going to get one of these, what do you need? I use the Behringer MDX 4600. It's the only one I know how to use. I really don't care about the compressor feature of it. I really don't even care about the limiter feature all of that much, and I don't even think the limiter's all terribly that effective. However, the gate functionality is why I love the MDX 4600. I've had the one that I'm using now for probably 4 years. I will tell you that one of the 4 channels is no longer functioning. But hey, the thing is the next price level up for a gate is several $100s more expensive, and I've already ordered a replacement. I just never got around to using it yet, and that's honestly because I don't use my telephone very much. So all I did for this one is I pulled the insert cable out of the microphone for channel 2, and for this demonstration for the telephone interface device, I used that empty channel. So there you go. Again, if you're going to use it for the studio microphones, remember you must have a mixer with insert ports. And if you're going to get a gate, what do you need to get? You'll want the gate. You'll certainly need the specific cables that will work with your setup. And it's not required, but you may want to also consider something to put the unit in, or you could just set it on your desk. All right, so that should help you understand what the Behringer MDX 4600 does. The gate keeps the audio below a preset volume level from getting into the recording. These usually run right around $150. I do have an affiliate link, gspn.tv/MDX4600. And yes, and by the way, mixer with insert ports is required if you want to be able to take advantage of this with your microphones. And of course, don't forget any additional cables you might need if you add this to, let's say, one of the other packages or something. All right, so let's just say if you are interested in getting a headphone amplifier or an MDX 4600, as you see in the picture here, you could just have them sitting out on your desk and stack everything up that way. It doesn't look very nice, but certainly a lot of people do that. My recommendation is to get a Middle Atlantic RK2 2-space black laminated wooden equipment rack. This thing is super sweet. It's a pain to put together, but once it's put together, it looks so nice, as you can see in this image. I mean, doesn't that just look beautiful? This little 2-space rack mount costs about $100. The affiliate link is gspn.tv/RK2. Now, if you do get this, you'll want to actually do a search for rack screws. You'll probably have to buy a minimum 25-pack or something like that. And if you're only getting, let's just say, the MDX 4600 and you don't need the headphone amplifier, well, then this 2-rack device would actually have an empty space there, which would probably gather a lot of dust and stuff like that. So if you're only getting one piece of audio processing equipment inside of your rack, then you may want to consider getting something called a blank face plate. All right, and of course you can just do a search for that, rack face plate, and they'll have like single ones, 2 spaces, 1 space, 3 space, 4 space, whatever. All right. Oh, and then there are a few other miscellaneous items that you could consider. Let's just say you're going to go ahead and get the Podcast Answer Man equipment package, and you're going to have a co-host that's in studio with you, and you want both of you to sound amazing. You could get the extra Heil microphone package. The Podcast Answer Man package and the Heil PR40 package are the 2 equipment packages that I sell at podcastanswerman.com/equipment. Again, podcastanswerman.com/equipment. I may add one other package in the future. You can always check podcastanswerman.com/equipment to see what's available for purchase there. If it's not shown in a package with an add to cart button, then it's not something that I sell. But the Heil PR40 package is $649, and this is something that I sell. It comes with another Heil PR40 broadcast microphone, another shock mount, another wire mesh popless filter, another Heil boom arm with C-clamp, and another standard microphone cable, and of course, shipping included as well. Now, it does not come with that beautiful looking mic flag that you see there with my podcast Answer Man logo. I don't have this written on the screen, but if you want to know where you can get yourself a beautiful looking mic flag like that, go to impactpbs.com. impactpbs.com. A matter of fact, in post-production, I will have actually added that to the video. So you actually saw it on the screen, and it might still be there until right now. All right, the next miscellaneous item that you may need is a USB sound card. If you look over at the picture on the left, on the top part of it, there is a blue circle. This is a back of my iMac, and you'll see that it has two 1/8 inch ports. 1/8 inch ports are what you would normally plug in. Like, let's just say 1/8 inch is about the size of is the size of your headphones or earbuds that you plug into an iPhone or your Android phone or whatever the case may be. But anyway, the back of an iMac, or not all of them because they're changing these things all the time. But anyway, the back of my iMac has two 1/8 inch jacks. The one on the left is audio out. It's got a pair of headphones just above it. And that is for you to plug in speakers, or you can plug in headphones, or this is where I would plug in a cable right there into the headphones jack, and then I would bring the other end of that cable into my mixer. Of course, that's outlined and displayed in the diagrams that I have created. So, it shows you how to wire that up. Just to the right of that in the blue circle is another 1/8 inch port, and it's got a weird looking image that really means nothing to me, but it's line in or audio in. And this is where I can actually send audio out of the mixer, usually from the auxiliary output, and then the 1/8 inch port that is the other end of that cable coming from the mixer will go into the computer. The audio will go into the computer, into the audio in port. Sometimes it's called the line in port. Sometimes it's called the mic in port. And sometimes it's just called in. And then sometimes it has a silly looking logo up there that means absolutely nothing to anybody unless I tell you what it is. Now, look at the bottom of that image on the left. That is a MacBook Air, and it only has one 1/8 inch port. And that 1/8 inch port is just a headphone jack. So that means that I can bring audio out of the MacBook Air and bring it into my mixer, but there's no way for me to send the audio from my mixer, from my microphone, for example, into the MacBook Air. It's not possible unless I add a USB sound card. Now, the USB sound card that I prefer is the iMic USB sound card. Over there on the right-hand side, you can see it usually runs about $26, and you can pick one up at the affiliate link gspn.tv/iMic, IMIC. Now, when you have this device, you plug it into any USB port on your computer, and then you can see it has in and out. Of course, in is where you're going to be sending the audio from your mixer that's bringing your audio, it's bringing the microphone audio from your mixer out of the mixer and then into the input. All right. And then you're going to have another cable that would go from the output of the Griffin iMic. It's going to go out of the iMic. It's going to bring the audio out of the computer and into the mixer. And as far as that little switch on the left-hand side where it says line or mic, you would want to make sure that that is on line, never on mic. Even though, yes, we're bringing in the microphone audio, just make sure it's always on line. So if your computer does not have two 1/8 inch ports, grab yourself a Griffin iMic USB sound card and you'll be good to go. Also, the Heil PL2T, that's the microphone boom arm. It's the little springy thing. It's the thing that brings the microphone to you rather than you having to come to the microphone. As I said before, it comes with a C-clamp. There's nothing I can do about that. That's just the way it is. Now, the C-clamp works fine in many scenarios, but also in many scenarios, it does not work. There may not be a lip, big enough for you to connect to. You might have a surface that is too thin, and so therefore it just isn't enough to really hold the microphone sturdy. Some of you might have a plastic table I've seen, and it just is wibbly wobbly. You just can't have that. So I just want to let you know that there are other options for you to mount your microphone boom arm. Now, these options cost anywhere between $22 to $35, whichever one you want to choose. And this would be in addition to getting your boom mic arm. Unfortunately, like I said, there's no way to actually order a mic arm with one of these options. It comes with a C-clamp, but these are the other three options. On the left, you have the wall mount, and then your arm will just, that'll just go to the wall, and then you can actually drop your boom mic arm right into that. Then you have the desk mount, which, by the way, this does require that you go to the hardware store and buy a special drill piece that will allow you to drill a hole large enough for that to fit into your desk and then secure from the bottom. It does look really nice, and I did this for a client, and he was super happy. But it's a bit of extra work and effort to install a desk mount, but in the end, it's a really nice look. Much nicer looking than the flange mount, although the flange mount would allow you to also sturdily connect to let's say a wooden desk surface or whatever. And again, you would be instead of the desk mount, you would in the desk mount you're going to be drilling a hole. In the flange mount, you will be screwing 3 screws into whatever surface that you're securing this to. So you can decide there which of those 3 items might work for you if the C-clamp doesn't work for you. Now, if you are just placing your order, I would just go with the Heil Boom mic arm and see if you can make do with the C-clamp. If not, these 3 options are available to you. Another miscellaneous item is if you're actually piecing together your own equipment package and you do not want to go out and spend, I think it's over $100 for a boom mic arm by itself, then the Atlas DS7E tabletop mic stand is the mic stand that I recommend. It usually runs about $20. You can pick one up at gspn.tv/DS7E or anywhere else that you just do a search for Atlas DS7E, and they'll have them around there as well. That's a tabletop mic stand. And then, of course, a note about cables. I'm not showing you any cables here. I did show you the cables that were included in the podcast Answerman equipment package. It's because that package is pre-put together. I know exactly what you're doing, what equipment you're using, how it's going to be hooked up, and so I know exactly what cables to suggest to you. However, if you do anything outside of exactly what I prescribe in a podcast Answerman equipment package, then what cables you will need will be determined by whatever pieces of equipment that you get. In fact, if you were to get a podcast Answerman equipment package and you added additional items like a MDX 4600 or anything else, it may change the cables that are necessary for your equipment hookup. So I'm not going to go into detail in this tutorial about cables. So when it comes to cables, once you have decided what mixer or what other pieces of equipment that you are going to end up using, if you need to know what cables you should order, please just go ahead and post that in the online A to Z course as a question, and we will help you find the right cables specifically for your situation. Now, when it comes to mixers, I do want to show you some other mixer options as well. Now, the Podcast Answerman equipment package includes the Mackie 1402 VLZ3 mixer, and this may look a lot like that, although this is the 1202 VLZ3 mixer. It usually runs about $270 instead of $400, so obviously there's a nice drop in price there if you're looking at buying this individually. gspn.tv/Mackie1202 is the affiliate link. And the difference here is over on the right-hand side, it has 4 XLR inputs for microphones instead of 6. It still has in the green there, it still has the 2 auxiliary outputs, so it would allow you to do both a Skype interface and a telephone interface at the same time. So that still allows you to do that. And of course, if you did end up getting something like the MDX 4600 compressor limiter gate, you would be able to use the channel insert ports on the back of the mixer to hook up to that device as well with those microphones. So this is a very good solution. If that's what works for you there, it will be just fine. The other big difference here is that it has knobs at the bottom instead of sliders. It's slightly smaller than the Mackie 1402 VLZ3 mixer. And so this is a good option. I have many clients who have the 1202 VLZ3 mixer, and it's a very nice mixer. The next one, as far as the lowest cost mixer that I personally recommend, it would be the Mackie 802 VLZ3 mixer. This is for people who are looking to spend the least amount of money on a mixer but don't want to have to upgrade it later. Now, this usually runs about $199, and the affiliate link for that is gspn.tv/Mackie802. Now, here are a couple differences with this one. Notice in the blue, it's got 3 microphone inputs. Now, notice in the pink there that the channel inserts, instead of being on the back of the mixer, they're on top. Now, the cool thing is that it does have 2 channel inserts. So if you had 3 microphones, 2 of the microphones could go through an MDX 4600 and then come back and be, processed with the compressor limiter gate functionalities. So in essence, what you could do here is you could have 3 microphones, but remember, there's only 2 channel inserts, which is more than enough if you are a solo show or you're a show where it's just you and your co-host in studio with you, or guest in studio with you, or interviewee in studio with you. Very nice mixer, and yeah, I like it a lot. And of course, in green on the right-hand side, there's the auxiliary send. Now, the 1202 and the 1402 both had 2 auxiliary sends, which allowed you to have 2 audio interfaces with something called a mix minus. We'll talk about that in a future tutorial. But anyway, this one only has 1 auxiliary send. So you could actually do what's called a mix minus with Skype or a mix minus with a telephone device. You could not do both at the same time. So just keep that in mind. But between you and me, my suggestion from this point forward is that trying to do telephone interviews with Skype is probably the best solution out there. Equipment, telephone interface devices, they're not as necessary as today as they were in the past, because Skype has improved so much, and as long as you have high bandwidth. Now, if you're in an area where you have very low bandwidth and high latency with your internet, then you may need to fall back on the broadcast host telephone interface device, or another device that will work with your phone system if it's not a standard analog system. All right. Now, this mixer here, I personally do not recommend. However, I know that some people want to actually do a mixer setup. They want to get an inexpensive microphone. They want the least expensive mixer that they can get, and they want to go ahead and do the recorder. So microphone to a mixer to a recorder, but they really need to keep that cost down. Well, you can, if you want, buy a Behringer 802 mixer. Now, do not confuse this with a Mackie 802 mixer. They're very different. By the way, this mixer here only runs about, $65. You can probably pick it up cheaper someplace. But anyway, the affiliate link that I have for this is gspn.tv/802. Now remember, the Mackie URL is gspn.tv/Mackie, MACKIE 802. Anyway, here's the deal. This has 2 microphone inputs, which probably is more than enough for most everybody out there getting started. It does have 1 auxiliary send, so it does allow you to either do a telephone interface mix minus, or it will allow you to do a Skype mix minus. So that's perfectly fine. However, this will not allow you, if you had an MDX 4600, it will not allow you to take advantage of using the gate functionality for your microphones, because you will not have a channel insert port to bring the audio from the mixer, or from the microphone into the mixer, and then out of the mixer through the MDX 4600 and then back into the mixer. That's what that channel insert cable does. And so if you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to do it for the microphones. But if you're looking to actually get the lowest cost mixer that you can get away with for now, knowing that you might want to upgrade it later, you can go ahead and spend approximately $65, maybe even less, and grab a Behringer Xenix 802 mixer. Now, here's the situation. You don't have to have a mixer to do a podcast. In fact, one thing that I would like you to do right now, and if you want, you can just write this down on your notes to go and do immediately after you watch this video, or you can pause right here and go and listen right now to episode 228 of Podcast Answer Man. Yes, that's episode number 228 of Podcast Answer Man, which you can find at podcastanswerman.com/digital recorder. Again, that's podcastanswerman.com/digital recorder. That entire episode from the very beginning to the very end was recorded on nothing other than a Roland R-05 recorder. And then, of course, I added some audio clips in post-production afterwards using the editing process that we will cover in future tutorials. So again, if you wanted to, I think, what was it, like $180 or something like that, with nothing more than a Roland digital audio recorder, the R-05 recorder, nothing more than that, you could actually create a Podcast Answer Man episode just like I did. Now, if you listen to episode number 228 of Podcast Answer Man, one of the things that I do while recording that episode is actually demonstrate how you can connect a microphone directly to the Roland recorder without using a mixer. In fact, you just need a portable microphone cable like the one you see there. This is the XVM105 cable. This has a 1/8 inch male plug on one end, and it has a female XLR plug on the other end. Basically, the XLR plugs into the microphone, and the 1/8 inch plugs in to the microphone input of the digital audio recorder. And so you could go with a Heil PR40, which is $325, another $10 for the cable, and then $180 for the recorder, and add that together, and you could have a pretty sweet sounding podcast without the need for a mixer. Of course, you won't be able to do the Skype mix minus and stuff like that, but Skype interviews could be done recording into your computer using some software that's designed to record Skype phone calls, which we'll cover in a future tutorial anyway. So it's completely up to you. If you wanted to start without a mixer, you can. Again, you could just go the Roland recorder all by itself, or you could plug in the Heil microphone into the digital audio recorder, and you could go that route. And of course, I'm going to show you a less expensive microphone in just a little bit. And if you wanted to, you could plug in a $40 microphone using this same cable right here, the gspn.tv/XVM105. You could actually go from a $40 microphone into the $10 cable into the $180 digital audio recorder. All right? So lots of options there. Just know this, that whatever microphone you choose, your microphone must be a dynamic microphone. If you have an existing condenser microphone, it will not work. And of course, if you have a USB microphone, it's not going to work either. You can't plug in a USB microphone into a mixer, and you can't plug in a USB microphone into a digital audio recorder. Alrighty, moving on. Let's see here. So here's another option. If you wanted to, you could do away with the digital audio recorder. Let's just say you already have a computer. And so if you wanted to have the Heil quality sound, you could have a Heil PR40 microphone. You could put it on that Atlas DS7E a tabletop mic stand if you wanted to. And then you could plug that into what's called the Shure X2U XLR to USB adapter. It usually runs about $99. You can pick up this little device at gspn.tv/X2U, or you can search for it elsewhere on the web. Basically, this little device plugs right into the back of your microphone, and it comes with a USB cable that'll allow you to plug right into your computer. And then you can use software on your computer to record you speaking into your Heil microphone. The best part is it actually has on this little device a little 1/8 inch headphone jack so that you can monitor the audio as well. It's a pretty sweet little deal. All right, the next screen here. Here's the other microphone I want to tell you about. This is the ATR 2100 microphone. This is the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. I have seen this microphone for just under $40 in some places. I don't know how long that will last, but if you can check it out at gspn.tv/Amazon ATR 2100. Again, that's gspn.tv/Amazon ATR 2100. And for $40, this is an amazing microphone. In fact, I have an entire video that I'm going to play for you right now to show off just what this microphone sounds like. Hey everybody, Cliff Ravenscraft here from podcastanswerman.com, and just a real short video to give you a little bit of a demonstration of the difference between a Heil PR40 microphone, which is what I'm using right here, and this microphone, which is an Audio-Technica ATR 2100. Now, what's unique about this microphone, by the way, this microphone right here is $325. The shock mount is almost $100. The pop filter, I think, is about $60 or some odd dollars, and the boom mic arm is like $125 or something like that. Anyway, when you add it all together, it's a sizable investment for this high quality broadcast microphone. Which, by the way, if I had to buy it over again, I would. I mean, I absolutely love my Heil PR40 microphone. Have one on the other side of the studio here for my wife or any other co-host that's in the studio. And I'm actually getting ready to create a Studio B, a backup studio. And in that studio, I plan on buying 2 more Heil microphones. So I prefer the Heil sound personally. However, there are many people who are on a budget. And when people are on a budget, you're looking for less expensive alternatives. And I want to tell you that before, I used to always recommend the Shure SM58 microphone. It's about $100 to $109 for that. And by the way, that is still a super high quality microphone, the Shure SM58. It is worth every bit of the $100 or $110 if you, depending on where you get it. It is absolutely an amazing microphone, and that thing is an industry standard. There are people who are on road crews who actually use the screen on that to nail in nails on stage and stuff like that, and that thing just will never stop working. However, now this is the ATR 2100, which, by the way, sounds about as good as a Shure SM58. The build quality on this is not as good. You wouldn't want to go, dropping this microphone. But this thing runs, this thing could run as low as like 40 some odd dollars. I've seen it somewhere between $40 and as much as $80, and it's worth every penny of $40 to $80. It's got a pretty decent sound to it. It does have an on-off switch, which is no big deal to me. Personally, I don't care for an on-off switch, but it's there. But I did want to tell you about the bottom of this. If you look right here, that is an XLR port, which means this can plug into any standard mixer. By the way, this is a dynamic microphone. So this is going to plug into any mixer with no problem at all. And of course, if you don't have a mixer yet and you're just starting out and you want to actually record straight into your computer, this right here is a USB cable plug right there. So you can actually plug this directly from the microphone into your computer, and you're good to go. Also, there's a little headphone jack here because if you're operating in the USB mode, you can actually monitor your audio coming back to you, and there's a little gain or volume control right here for the microphone. So a little gain control right there for the USB side of things. But this is the ATR 2100. Question is, how does it sound? I'm often asked, hey, if you're going to tell me to stay under the $1,000 budget range, obviously you're suggesting maybe the ATR 2100, but not the Heil PR40. Is there a big, gigantic difference in sound? Well, I'm going to demonstrate that for you. Well, first of all, one of the things that I'm going to demonstrate is that you'll want to put a foam windscreen on top of that microphone. You're definitely want to make sure that you get a foam windscreen. But I'm just going to switch this out. You can actually see me do this right here. And here I am. So as you can see, the audio quality right here is really good. Not bad at all. I haven't changed any of the settings on my mixer, and this is how I sound. And as you can tell, this has got a pretty decent sound to it with no problem at all. I would not, if I were on a tight budget, I would not hesitate from using the ATR 2100. It has a pretty decent sound to it, so I don't think that you're going to notice a big, gigantic difference. Now, why on earth would I choose to go with the bigger microphone? If this thing sounds this good and the other one sounds that good, then what's the big difference? I do want to point out one other thing, and I just realized this, by the way. I am using a compressor limiter gate, so let me unplug that. All right, so this is what I sound like without a compressor limiter gate. So I had the MDX 4600 plugged into my mixer. So this is what I sound like, but this is still really good quality. Now here's what a lot of people do. They make the mistake of pulling the microphone back like this, and then of course they have to turn up the gain on their mixer, and now you hear a lot more echo in the room. But if I just get right up here like this, this is the ATR 2100, and it has a really decent sound. I'm going to switch right back over to my Heil. And here I am with my Heil. Now, I think the Heil actually has a cleaner sound to it. It's not as, I don't know. I just think I can tell. I'm an audio snob, so I can tell the difference between the two. Not to mention the fact that I also like the look of this. I'm not going to kid you that a part of the reason why I was drawn to this, which, by the way, I'm going to go ahead and plug my compressor limiter gate back in. Hold on one second. There we go. So I'm not gonna fool around. I will tell you that I know that sometimes I'll take pictures of me while I'm recording. I might have people come into my studio. I might actually do a live show sometime. I might take this stuff on the road, and this looks a lot more impressive than this. But it also, for me, I am an audio snob, and I do notice the fine differences between this sound right here and a little bit of the difference. This is crisper, clear, full body, and all of that stuff. So is there enough of a difference to go from, let's say, $50 to $80 all the way up to, well, with all of this stuff involved, we're talking $649. Is there enough of a difference? For me, the answer is yes. But for many people, the answer may be no, and that's completely fine. And this video was just to demonstrate to you how this microphone sounds. And so one final time, I will switch back over. And again, I do have the compressor limiter gate plugged in. And here it is. So again, I can just sense that there's a less crisp sound, and of course this is why you must have a pop filter, by the way, or a wind screen. And so we're gonna just put that on there. So wind screen, popping peas is not as bad now, but there's definitely a different sound. But here's the deal: this is actually going to do great for a lot of people, and this actually would sound better than a majority of podcasts that are out on the market today. So there you go. That's what it sounds like if you use the ATR 2100, again, for $40, or even if it was $80. Unbelievable sound coming out of this microphone. Again, I say in the video, I prefer my Heils, but if I needed to keep the budget low, a $40 ATR 2100 would certainly fit the bill. And of course, that windscreen that I showed in the video, gspn.tv/windscreen is the affiliate link for that. They run about $6. Of course, you can just do a search for foam windscreen for ball microphone. All right, and that will help you find those out there as well. All right, and of course, if those items that I've shared already are not low enough on the budget for you, and you want to keep things even lower, that's perfectly fine. You could try using a USB headset. This is actually better than what I started out with. Remember, I started out with a headset with a little boom microphone off to the side, and mine had the 1/8 inch adapters. This one actually is a USB headset. You just plug it right into the USB port on your computer, and then whatever software you're using to record your audio, it'll pick it up. No problem at all. And these things start as low as $10. That's right, as low as $10. You could actually be podcasting today. So there you go. Now, a couple things about the USB headsets. The microphone is usually right there next to your mouth. You usually get a lot of spitting sounds or stuff. And also, the quality of your voice is not nearly as good as some other options. So if I had my choice, would I spend $10 or $20 or $30 on a USB headset, or would I spend $40 to $80 on an ATR 2100? I would definitely go with that ATR 2100 microphone over a USB headset any day of the week. And then, of course, I do want to give you one other option here. If you have a smartphone like an iPhone or even an Android phone, Griffin, the same company that makes the iMic sound card that I showed you earlier, the white device that allows you to have both an in and an out port on your computer audio. The same company who makes that also makes an application for the iPhone and Android called iTalk. That's you can actually find this. This is not an affiliate link. It's just gspn.tv/italk, ITALK. Now, they have a free version, I believe, but for $1.99, you can get it without any ads and all that other stuff. And if you set this thing to best quality, it actually records really wonderfully. I've used this in a lot of different scenarios where I went somewhere and I forgot to bring my Roland R-05 recorder with me. And I am going to play for you just a couple of audio clips that have all been recorded using nothing more than the iTalk application on my iPhone. Hey folks, Cliff Ravenscraft here, and I am going to give you a demonstration of the Griffin iTalk application. Now, this is available for the Android phone as well. I happen to be using the iPhone version, and I'm holding my phone about maybe 5 or 6 inches away from my mouth. And as you can tell, I've got very good audio quality. In fact, what I'm going to do for you right now is I am going to play for you several samples of audio back to back. And every audio sample that you are about ready to hear has been recorded on my iPhone from the iTalk application and nothing else. Here are a few of those clips now. I am actually recording this on my iPhone, my $1.99 Griffin iTalk application, and sometimes you just gotta record with what you got, and I'm actually pretty happy with what this thing records most of the time. I am sitting right next to my great friend, Jared Easley. Jared, how's it going, my friend?
It's going great. I don't know about you, but Orlando's awesome. Score is blowing my mind.
Yeah, so Jared let the cat out of the bag. We are in Orlando, Florida, not in the studio of GSPN.TV World Headquarters, but no, we are poolside, actually, in Orlando, Florida, at the Rosen Plaza Hotel Score Conference 2013.
Indeed.
So here we are. We're at the Score Conference, and I'm talking with Melanie. Melanie, how are you?
I'm doing great.
So if you were going to do a podcast, what would the topic of the podcast be?
Well, that's another question of mine because I have a lot of ideas, and I'd kind of like to start with one that's maybe the easiest to monetize early.
Well, my friends, if you have an audio equipment budget that is no more than $1.99, that, my friends, is an example of what you can pull off. Using nothing more than the Griffin iTalk application on your iPhone or your Android phone and just the built-in microphone that is already included with your phone. As you can see, my friends, there really are equipment options for any budget out there. So now that you have had the opportunity to go through and see all of the different equipment options that are available to you, I highly recommend that you make some decisions about what you're going to do as far as your budget and what items you will purchase. If you have any questions about any cables that you might need or anything like that, again, just post them in the course and we will get answers to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for tuning into this tutorial, and I'll see you online.